It crept in slowly, like a chill that gradually settles into the bones. I never would have believed it could lead me to the edge of a path I hadn't even known existed. What had once been a marriage warmed by laughter, by gentle touches, and shared glances had turned into something distant and cold, something brittle. My husband, forever preoccupied, had long ago drifted into his own private world. He no longer looked at me as a woman or a partner, but more like someone he happened to share a roof with. A domestic arrangement devoid of passion. The evenings dragged on, quiet and endless. Our conversations had become reduced to basic exchanges. What's for dinner? Did you pay the bill? While intimacy had become a faded photograph I could barely recall. I tried convincing myself that this was simply what years of marriage became, that love faded into routine and affection dulled into obligation. But deep within, a quiet ache grew. I didn't just miss his touch, I missed being seen. I craved recognition, warmth, the feeling of being alive. Then there was him, my husband's son from a previous marriage, now living under our roof. He was polite, thoughtful, and far more observant than I gave him credit for. Where my husband was inattentive, this young man noticed things, subtle things. He could read the silences that filled the house like fog. At first, it was nothing, just the occasional small talk in the kitchen, a passing comment that lingered longer than it should have, a shared glance too heavy to be innocent. I brushed it off, telling myself I was imagining it. Foolish, even, but it kept happening. The more I tried to disregard it, the more it pulled at my attention. His eyes would meet mine and hold them, turning a second into a strange, timeless moment. He always seemed to be around, not intrusive, but present, watching from the edges of the room, waiting perhaps for something I didn't yet understand. One evening, as the sky outside turned to lavender and dusk bled into night, I found myself withdrawing to my bedroom after another silent dinner with my husband. The air in the house felt oppressive with its stillness. My husband had already retreated to bed, lost in whatever thoughts kept him company at night. I assumed his son was tucked away in his room, preoccupied by the distractions of youth. I needed to feel something, anything. My fingers moved without intention, tracing the hem of my robe, as if hoping touch alone could erase the void inside me. My breathing grew shallow, my thoughts tangled in a haze of longing years of isolation swelling into one desperate need for release. I had no idea the door had creaked open. I only realized it when I turned my head slightly and saw him standing there, frozen. He stood at the threshold, his expression unreadable, hovering somewhere between curiosity and something more dangerous. Delight? I wasn't sure. Time warped, stretching that silence between us into something unbearable. My heart pounded so violently I thought it might burst. I scrambled to cover myself, shame scorching my skin, but it was too late. He had seen everything. Everything I never meant for anyone to witness. He didn't move. His gaze remained fixed on me, steady, unflinching. I tried to speak, but my voice came out fractured. You shouldn't be here. He tilted his head slightly, a faint quirk tugging at the corner of his lips. My apologies, he said, his voice soft, too soft. Calm, controlled. It wasn't embarrassment I heard in him. It was something more deliberate. Something calculated. Leave, I whispered, barely able to meet his eyes. He didn't argue. He turned slowly, almost theatrically, and closed the door behind him with excruciating quiet. I stayed where I was, breathless, trembling. Humiliation should have crushed me. And yet, there was something else blooming inside me. A thrill, an unsettling jolt of being seen for the first time in years. That night, I lay in bed wide awake. I replayed the moment over and over again, each detail burned into my memory. I knew it was wrong, I knew it. But still, I couldn't ignore how alive it made me feel. The next morning, I avoided him. I couldn't even bring myself to look at him. Every time I did, my cheeks burned hot with the memory of the night before. At breakfast, my husband sat across from me, buried in his phone as always, oblivious to the storm that had passed through his house. Did he suspect anything? Had he heard anything? God, if he knew. Everything would come crashing down. I focused on the coffee in my hands, using it as a distraction from my nerves. But I could feel his son's eyes on me. He wasn't avoiding me. He was watching me closely. There was a new sharpness in his attention now, like he was studying my reactions, testing my responses. His every movement was deliberate, leaning closer than necessary, reaching just a second too late so his hand brushed mine. Is everything okay? My husband asked out of nowhere, glancing up briefly. I forced a smile. Just didn't sleep well? Then came that soft sound chuckle, barely audible, from across the table. It was my stepson. That faint laugh struck me like a live wire. He knew, and he wasn't done. The entire day, I kept trying to put distance between us, but it felt impossible. He had a way of being everywhere. Every time I turned, he was there in the hallway, by the door, behind me at the sink. Never touching, never overt, just close enough to unsettle me. The air between us grew charged with something volatile, something dangerous. That night, I was in the kitchen, rinsing dishes under the cold stream of water when I sensed him again watching. I could feel the weight of his stare. You're awfully tense, he said calmly, almost teasing. I paused, my hand submerged. I don't know what you mean. He stepped forward, casually, as if this were just another ordinary night. Last night, he said. It was unexpected. I turned to face him, struggling to keep my voice even. It was a mistake. He moved a fraction closer. Was it? I should have shut it down right then. Should have drawn a line firmly and finally. But I didn't. I froze and let the moment hang between us. He reached past me to grab a glass. His hand brushing mine again, intentionally or not, I couldn't tell. But it was enough. Enough to stir something deep, something electric and overwhelming. This can't happen. I said more to myself than to him. He remained exactly where he was. Then why don't you stop it? I couldn't answer. Because the truth was, I didn't want to. I hadn't felt this wanted, this alive in so long it terrified me. Just as my lips parted, ready to respond, my husband's voice rang from the next room. Honey, are you coming to bed? The spell shattered. I stumbled backward, putting space between us, retreating to safety. My stepson said nothing, just looked at me with something unreadable, something dangerously close to longing. I walked away. But I felt his gaze follow me all the way out of the room. In the days that followed, the tension between us only grew. Each glance, each casual touch, each breath shared in two small spaces, it all felt like the build-up to something inevitable. He didn't act embarrassed. He didn't try to avoid me. If anything, he seemed emboldened, and deep inside, I feared no, I knew that I was already too far gone to stop it. Bolder and more deliberate in his actions, my husband, absorbed in his work, remained oblivious, leaving me exposed to the very temptation. I was striving to fend a phone evening. My husband revealed that he would be away for a few days. I nodded, feigning indifference to its impact on my. The moment he departed, I sensed a change in the atmosphere. Was aware of it, as well as obstacles had vanished, leaving no room for excuse that evening. I found myself on the couch, feigning interest in a film yet. My mind wandered elsewhere. His footsteps echoed as he entered the room, and I could sense the intensity of his gaze upon me. He didn't take his usual seat across from me. He positioned himself beside men comfortably close. I felt a surge of tension, yet I remained still, pretending nothing's happening. He inquired, his tone smooth and laced with a hint of mischief. With a deliberate breath, I released the air slowly. This is not a mere pass to me. Leaned in just a fraction, his arm grazing against Minathan. Ceased to play. I ought to have departito, have turned my back before the moment slipped away, yet I remained. I lingered, trapped in a web of conflicted emotions, too complex to untangle. His fingers glided along the edge of my hand, a whisper of contact that ignited a cascade of shivers along my spine. I pivoted to meet his gaze for an instant. Silence enveloped us both. Atmosphere crackled with intensity. Distance that separated us diminishing with each heartbeat. This is wrong, I whispered. His eyes clouded with shadow. What is it that draws you to it? There was no response from Memi. Body turned against me before my mind had a chance to comprehend, as our paths crossed in the narrow hallway, a mere brush of air between Usenet to send a shiver Down my spine it was audacious taboo, yet I had never experienced such a profound sense of vitality. I found myself surrendering to the overwhelming emotions I had tried so desperately to suppress. The act touch sparked a flame of emotions I had long kept. And it transcended mere desire. It was a matter of yearning for connection, exploring a sense of recognition that had eluded me for quite some time. For a fleeting moment, a voice within me cried out to halt my actions. That voice was overshadowed by the intensity of his gazelle emotions. He stirred within meth lines had blurred the boundaries, lay in ruined sand. By the moment I grasped the extent of our journey, retreat was no longer an option. Hours later, I lay walk adrift in a sea of guilt and confusion, staring blankly into the darkness. Gravity of the recent events enveloped me, both stifling and thrilling in equal measure. I had accomplished the unimaginably, yet what filled me with greater dread was not the regret itself. I was overwhelmed by a tangle of guilt, sorrow, and a strange ache for something lost. Dawn arrived with an unwelcome haste. I stirred from slumber and stirred in unfamiliar linens, heaviness of existence bearing down upon me. Body retained the memory of each caress, every hushed utterance, yet my thoughts were already in a tumultuous descent. What had I wrought? I glanced over at him, still lost in slumber, his face serene and tranquil, born no regrets. I felt a pang of envy for that. With a racing heart, I quietly slipped out of bed, gathering my clothes, and hushed urgency of action resonated as a betrayal, not merely to my husband, but to the existence I believed I had crafted. As I emerged into the world, the weight of guilt crashed over me like a relentless tide. Yet beneath the surface, hidden away, lay something entirely different. An exhilarating sensation I found impossible to overlook. Last night, I experienced a vitality unlike any I had ever known. Endeavored to maintain a facade of normality, yet he did not follow suit. During breakfast, he exhibited a change assured dominant. This gaze bore into me with a fervor that sent my heart racing. Was not merely a blunder I could wipe away. He was aware of it, and he desired for me to be aware as well. That morning, my husband's voice reached out to me, ensuring me firmly back in reality. Spoke of his journey, of his job, of countless topics, yet he skirted around the most painful truth that his wife had betrayed him in the most devastating manner. I compelled myself to reply as if nothing were different, yet everything had shifted. As I ended the call, I noticed my stepson standing there, casually leaning against the door frame. His gaze unsettled me, a silent reminder of the fragile line we're dangerously close to crossing. We're overthinking it, he remarked. I folded my arms, attempting to create a barrier between you, shrugged as if to say that the situation was utterly absurd perhaps, yet it transpired. I took a deep breath. It must not occur once more. I advanced with measured intent. Are you certain of that? I was not. That was the issue at hand. Longed to agree to bring closure before it unraveled any deeper, yet I understood myself all too clearly. A boundary within me had been crossed, and denial was no longer an escape. Throughout the remainder of the day, I steered clear of him, yet it held no significance of harm I'd been inflicted with. Each flutter of my eyelids, his touch, lingered an echo of his hands upon my skin. With each passing moment he drew near me, body responded instinctively, leading the thoughts that sought to intervene. In that particular night, my husband returned home, pressed his lips to mine, whispering that he had missed me, conjured a smile embodying the role of the devoted wife. My stepson lingered in the shadows, his gaze fixed on me, harboring a secret that bound us in silent understanding. There were two paths before me. Act as if all is well while carrying the burden of this treachery within your surrender once more. Fully aware that it would obliterate everything, as my husband enveloped me in his embrace, and emptiness washed over me without a spark. There can be no warmth yet. When he passed by, the unspoken tension gnawed at my resolve. I felt my breath catch in my throat. My decision was already set in stone. I simply wasn't prepared to acknowledge it just yet.